Subscribe to WROK on YouTube and never miss a meeting.
All right, it says green light, but it doesn't always mean go, so sometimes it may not be working. So I'm going to call to order the November 28, 2022 Royal Oak City Commission meeting to order. We're going to begin with an invocation given by myself, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I ask that you stand if you can. The city of Royal Oak lost a good friend last week. Judge Jamie Wittenberg, only 48 years old, passed away peacefully at home with his wife Stacy and 4 daughters. Jamie had fiercely battled brain cancer for 3 years. Until the very end, he was committed to service and helping others. Judge Wittenberg came to us from Berkeley some years ago as part of a court merger. His presence was immediately felt, and he changed the lives of so many for the positive. For example, he helped co-found the teen court and doubled the size of her sobriety court. Aside from his accomplishments at the bench, he was just a great person to be around. Someone you could trust, somebody that made you feel better. Our city is better because of Judge Jamie Wittenberg. Judge Meineke said it right when he remarked, he was exactly the type of person we should have with a robe on the bench. And anybody who knew Jamie would agree 100%. Jamie was more than a judge. For many who stood before him, he was a second chance at life. He was also a loving husband, father, brother, and son. But for many of us, he was a shining example of decency and courage, especially during the toughest times of his battle with cancer. Jamie's legacy and spirit lives on in all of us who he touched. His impact will be felt long after his passing. We are truly grateful for being blessed with Jamie's presence and service. We are better because of him. May his story and life inspire us all. May we live up to his example and carry it forward as we pick up where he left off. Our hearts are hurting for Stacy Wittenberg and the 4 amazing daughters he leaves behind. Thank you for sharing him with the world. This place we live is better off because he was here. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that brings us to number 4 tonight, the approval of the agenda. Commissioner Perush.
I'd like to add an item to the agenda, consideration of compensation for the city clerk.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion on the proposed agenda. All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. All right, we have an agenda. All right. Next on the agenda is a proclamation honoring the Royal Oak Women's Club 120th anniversary. My goodness gracious. I had the privilege and honor to be invited to their open house and be there with many of the members, and I can tell you 120 years later that Royal Oak Women's Club is full of energy, living up to their mission, and really an inspirational organization, and we're just so proud to have and be home to such an amazing club. And it's my honor to actually come up and read this proclamation. So I see Lisa's here and other members of the club. If you guys want to all come up, or we can read this. Yeah, well, I think this is, I don't know. They give me directions, but I usually don't follow them, so they probably stop giving me directions now. But we can come up here and, all right, how's everyone doing today?
Good.
Thank you for being here tonight. Same here. All right. Well, there's 2 copies here. and I'm going to read a proclamation honoring the Royal Oak Women's Club 120th anniversary. Whereas on November 8th, 1902, 14 women came together at the home of Mrs. Frances Lathrop Martin and formed the Royal Oak Women's Club. And whereas the members drafted a constitution and bylaws and elected Mrs. Martin as their first president. And whereas this study club continued to grow in membership and in 1907 expanded their scope when they joined the Michigan Federation and the Greater Federation of Women's Clubs. And whereas their impact grew in the community, with the Royal Oak Women's Club taking on the role of activists, instituting reforms such as sanitary drinking fountains and fire escapes in community schools, and proposing and seeing passed a curfew ordinance. And whereas the Royal Oak Women's Club remains civically and philanthropically involved in the community, providing time, talent, and financial support to the neonatal at Beaumont Hospital, the public library, hospice programs, veterans programs, Salvation Army mobile meals, Haven, Gilda's Club, Boys and Girls Club giveaway Christmas, and the South Oakland Shelter, just to name a few. And whereas supporting Royal Oak's youth, encouraging and recognizing educational excellence by gifting of 3 health-related, 3 HOBY scholarships, as well as a general scholarship rotated each year between 3 high schools. And whereas the Royal Oak Women's Club also brings community together, sponsoring a successful lecture series during the 1960s and 70s, hosting a spaghetti dinner and wearing the green to celebrate St. Patrick's Day with their famous corned beef and cabbage dinner. A time-honored tradition in the community is their home and garden tour, and countless card parties, bake sales, and garage sales. And whereas the Royal Oak Women's Club home is a historic designated property, built in 1839, it was the First Baptist Church when it opened its doors, located originally on Lafayette Street. And whereas the building was used by various other church organizations from 1914 to 1921, it was the first village in town and became the first city hall in 1921 when Royal Oak achieved the status. And whereas in 1923, when no longer in use as a city hall, the building moved to a piece of land with a 100-foot frontage which it was a historical spot on its own right, where Blockhouse stood guarding a portion of the old Indian Trail from Detroit to Saginaw. This land was donated by George Martin in honor of his wife Frances Lathrop Martin, the first Women's Club president, who had tragically been killed only 3 months into her term as president when she was struck by a train at 4th Street Railroad crossing. And whereas in 1928, the building was moved to its current location at 404 South Pleasant Street, and in 1979 was designated a Michigan Registered Historic Site, and in 1999 the city also designated it a historic site. And whereas the importance of the Royal Oak Women's Club in the community is beyond measure, and Royal Oak is honored to celebrate and mark the first 120 years of this amazing group of women. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Fournier, and the members of the Royal Oak City Commission, on behalf of the entire Royal Oak community, hereby extend our congratulations to the Royal Oak Women's Club on their 120th anniversary and wish them another 120 years of continued success. So it's my honor to present these proclamations to you. Ms. Roy, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We're very, very honored to receive this recognition, and we're proud to have been such long-term partners with the great city of Royal Oak, and we do look forward to another century of community improvement through volunteer service. So, thank you. Thank you.
An extraordinary community group making extraordinary impacts on our city. Can't thank them enough. So grateful for 120 years and grateful for the next 120. Okay. This brings us to number 6 on tonight's agenda, which is public comment. Just a few things before we get into public comment. The City Commission values and relies on the input of our fellow citizens to help make decisions. Now is the time set aside for the public to address the City Commission on any city-related issues, both on the agenda or not. I ask that comments be directed to the City Commission and not to individual commissioners. If you wish to speak tonight at public comment, please wait until recognized by me, the mayor, then come forward to the podium. For the record, we ask that you state your name and address. Please be mindful that the city wishes to hear from anyone who wishes to speak tonight, so your comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, not per topic. There's a timer at the podium to help you keep track of your time. If you don't wish to speak tonight, no problem. You can reach out to us via email at your convenience. Please note the City Commission will not respond directly to questions during public comment. However, we are taking notes and will address the questions when the agenda topic is discussed, or refer to the proper city department if the matter is not scheduled on the agenda. Our city manager is also taking notes and will look into the matters as needed. With that, who's first? Mr. Ashley.
Good evening, Alan Ashley, Royal Oak Manor. Every winter I do the same thing, come up here. I think last winter or the winter before I showed pictures of how dark it is from 4th Street to 7th Street on both Troy and Williams. Now that we have a new complex of about 100 people are going to be moving in across from Royal Oak Manor, we need new lighting. We have the old lighting back in 1973. If you will walk out of here when you leave, look down Troy Street or William Street, you will see a difference. The lights from 4th to 5th, and then it's pitch black all the way to 7th. I think with the new building, we need new lighting in that area. And I know this commission has talked about helping businesses grow and function. A lot of businesses, I was out shopping on Saturday with the downtown Royal Oak, did all my shopping down in downtown Royal Oak, spent too much money. But I talked to several businesses and I brought this up and they says, go ahead, bring it up to the council. Here's my thing. Today is Cyber Monday. I put a proposal that the commission suspend all parking meters in the downtown area from today to January 1st. Businesses in Royal Oak have taken a hit from COVID, and Washington has taken a hit from the new parking meters. If you suspend it, make that known, you'll bring people down here to downtown Royal Oak, in the bars, in the stores. So they sit in the stores or the restaurants for hours drinking. They're spending money which businesses need. This would be helpful to downtown Royal Oak. And if it's a success, maybe you could do it next year. But from Cyber Monday to January 1st, suspend all parking in the downtown district area. And that will help business because they've been hit hard for the last 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashley. All right, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Christian Steer. My wife, Amanda Steer, and I own the home at 421 Forest, and we'd like to talk about paving of the road, which is on the agenda tonight, which is going to be 7E. I apologize, I'm going to read from here, so I apologize. While our primary residence is approximately 15 homes away at 614 Baldwin, we purchased the home on Forest roughly 4.5 years ago with the intent to build the home. We would spend the rest of our lives with our children as they continue to grow. And that's currently underway. It's actually started today. I originally grew up in Warren, Michigan, and my wife in Oak Park and Farmington. And both of our childhoods were filled with experiences of neighborhoods, not subdivisions, excuse me, with well-established trees, sidewalks for pedestrians. And when my wife and I moved to Royal Oak, not only was it a convenience between where our parents currently live, but it was a well-established neighborhood, and the canopy of trees is beautiful. I mention all of this about the trees because while I will continue that I am fully in favor of paving the road, which is one of 28 dirt roads in the area as of August 2020, it saddens me the trees would have to be cut down to do so. Our children are 4, 6, and 7 here with us tonight, and as we transition to living at 421 Forest full-time, I want to feel that the road adjacent to our home is safe. This home is currently at the corner of Forest and Fairgrove. Right now, with no curbs on either side of the road, I don't feel comfortable with my children playing outside with the possibility of a vehicle sliding or slipping on the dirt, hitting either a portion of my home or one of them individually. In wet or icy conditions, roads can become very slippery, which can also lead to accidents. We've worked with one of our neighbors over the last couple of years, as he's done prior to us owning the home, and Jim has done an excellent job of having the road graded and oiled to keep the dust down. However, in the months where where it is not oiled, dust can find its way inside the home and make it unclean and exacerbate any existing respiratory problems. As I mentioned before, I grew up in the 80s in Warren. I had a paper out. I knew all of my neighbors. This tends to become an issue between neighbors. Regardless of this situation, I will still love my neighbors. Lastly, while I would say I am in favor of, and I'd like to express that I am in favor of having Fairgrove paved between Hawthorne and Forest, I'd like to ask that the specifics of the particular assessment be reviewed to make it easier for the residents to pay overtime if they wish to do so. I know that's already set out in a plan, but I feel that each one of us are in different periods of our lives. I want to just express my concern that with the 6% annual interest rate, if not paid in full, we'd have 3 young children. Other neighbors are having their first child tonight. Others are transitioning into retirement, and with inflation currently rising and recession looming, access to funds to support tax assessments may be at a premium. Again, with that, my wife and I would like to express our interest in having Fairgrove paved between Hawthorne and Forest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steer. All right, anybody else wish to speak at public comment? Yes, sir.
Jim Garano, 502 Hawthorne. I'd like to talk about Fairgrove. Fairgrove to us, people that live in it, is just not a dirt road in Royal Oak. It represents old Royal Oak. Many people use the park-like setting, walk their dogs, walk their children, became familiar with many people. It also is the last remaining section of the oak forest that Royal Oak was named after. We've maintained and taken care of this road for 28 years. What I'd like the city commission to consider is dead-ending the road, if that's possible. We have in 150 to 200 yards off of Main Street, we have 3 north-south street. One of them is Rosedale, Fairgrove, and Oakmar. That's in 150 to 200 yards. I'd like the city to consider this. We love the street, we love Royal Oak. We'd like to keep it the way it is. And that's it. If you could dead end the street, I think that would be somewhat of a compromise. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for listening, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Yes.
Hello, I'm Catherine Garano. I live at 502 Hawthorne. That was my husband that just spoke. My family bought that home in 1966. I've always been part of that street. We've never had any accidents, cars going off the road because there wasn't a curb. These trees are over 200 years old. They provide a lot of shade and a lot of comfort for us. I can't tell you, I enjoy sitting outside all summer long. And they took down one tree last summer. It's a sauna, but people come by all the time and tell us how lovely they love our street. And I just wanted you to know my feelings on the subject. I am totally against paving Fairgrove. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Van Kiersbroek. I live at 420 Hawthorne Avenue. My husband Dennis is here also. Our house borders Hawthorne and Fairgrove. There is an item, well, we know what the item is. We're against paving Fairgrove. We moved here in 1994 and were attracted to the neighborhood by the old houses and the amazing tree canopy. It was like being up north. I used to have to walk to Maine in the summer to see the moon. Over the years, there has been a lot of building in the neighborhood that has affected the number of trees, in some places dramatically, and yet trees give us so much. We have never considered paving Fairgrove because of the historic 100-year-old plus trees that border it at the northeast side. They're incredibly beautiful in all the seasons and provide shade for the road and for us in our yard. Fairgrove is not heavily traveled usually. I mean, we're having building right now, so there's a lot of trucks, but normally no, because of the historic 100-year-old plus trees that border it on the northeast side. Did I lose my place? Yeeks. Okay, I did. It's not usually traveled normally. It's normally quite quiet. Currently, all 4 residents park on the side of the road because no one has a long driveway. There's a lot of permeable surface. Paving the road will create a different environment. There will be a loss of a substantial number of trees to cool us. It will be sunny and hot. Residents will have to figure out other options for parking, so likely some driveway situations will be added. I personally would like to remind you that we are in a climate emergency worldwide, and a policy of paving dirt roads with low traffic volume and losing large trees seems frivolous when trees are considered one of the best defenses against rising temperatures. Quoting an urban planner from an article in the New York Times, this is a especially nice article, this one and another one that is admiring the trees of Paris. Plans to fight global warming face an obstacle in Paris: trees. But what the urban planner said was, a 100-year-old tree is worth 125 newly planted trees in terms of absorbing carbon dioxide and cooling down its surroundings. And I'd like to mention the timing. The house behind ours, Kristen's house, is it started being knocked down today. So the house replacing this will be much larger with the pool. This project, paving Fairgrove, and also we have construction scheduled on both Hawthorne and Forest for this year, would just be fine if no people live there. Unfortunately, we do. So it will be, that's insane. So thank you, my time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Herrick, Herrick. I live at 731 Forest Avenue. Been there for 45 years. Really appreciate the dirt roads because it reminds me of the country area that I grew up with. My statement is I don't understand how, if this family has lived in the neighborhood, lived with the dirt road, why they didn't choose another property that didn't require all this additional work and cost to the people in the neighborhood and the immediate neighbors. It is that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Anybody else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am. I'm going to grab her. I'll get you next, sir.
Hi, my name's Amanda Steer. I live at 614 Baldwin. We're talking about our property at 421 Forest, which started construction today. I did not prepare comments so eloquently like my husband did, but I do want to say that we love Royal Oak. We are doing everything we can in our home to honor the beautiful homes in Royal Oak and the traditional style of Royal Oak. And we plan to, my husband and I moved here when we first got married. We've had our 3 children here, and we hope to, our plan is for this to be really our forever home. And I know it is heartbreaking to the neighbors, and there's no, ill intent here, but our home, while it's new and it's going to be larger than the property that was already existing, we hope that the neighbors will still love it. It's got a wraparound porch, and hopefully it's going to fit the neighborhood. And we just, want to build a foundation for our children to grow and for them to hopefully stay in Royal Oak because they love living here so much. And with the dirt road, I'll echo what my husband said. I imagine my children riding their bikes on the street, which I think is not ideal on a dirt road, playing basketball in the street, like I grew up doing in Oak Park, which is not ideal on a dirt road. And so for us, it's definitely a very long-term thing. And with the road millage, it was just the right opportunity financially, we felt, to address it now, rather than it being maybe something that wasn't our choice later that could be more costly in the years to come. And with the trees, I love trees. I love big trees. I don't want to tear down any trees. Unfortunately, that's not an option if the road is paved, but we plan on replacing trees, and I know that Royal Oak is undergoing the canopy project right now, and so I think that that's very much in the forefront of everybody in Royal Oak, and with the efforts, we hope that obviously it's not going to replace a 100 or 200-year-old tree, but it's not because we don't love trees, but we do want a nice road for our children to play in and for us to live for years and years to come. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Stanichuk. I live at 421 Baldwin. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for your volunteering time. I'm grateful for that. You work hard at it. I've been living on Baldwin there for 32 years. My parents moved us here in 1972, which is 50 years on Farnham Street. Oh, I forgot my glasses. Oh boy. Oh, and my hat. Okay, let's get going here. If you look up the city of Royal Oak, Wikipedia states that it is known for the city of trees. I am here on behalf of the trees. If a concrete road was installed on Fairgrove, I was told approximately 5 beautiful, healthy, 200-year-old oak trees would have to be removed, which is a shame. These oak trees have been there since and before Royal Oak was even a city, which was founded in 1921. There must be some other alternative besides cutting down the trees. If you have not drove down the road, I would encourage you all to do so and just see how beautiful it is. I can look out my side door and look down the road. It just brings back the countryness to this, city here. If other Royal Oaks residents were be aware of these trees are in danger of being destroyed, you'd have to have this meeting at probably the farmer's market or maybe Ford Field. There'd be so many people opposing these trees being cut down. There's several alternatives, I believe, instead of taking these trees down, would be to make it a dead-end road or make it narrower or pave the half that they want to be paved instead of, making them pave the whole road. Dead-end roads, the dead-end road, there's no traffic there's nobody that would be going down that road except for four houses. And it's mainly just for their garage because that's the only thing that's on it. There are numerous dead-end streets in Royal Oak and probably over 100 miles of dirt road in Royal Oak. Making it narrower because there are streets I just found a couple of streets, they're only 18 feet wide. So it's not necessary to go the whole 25 feet. Let me think here for a minute. Well, hopefully no kids play in the road and play out in the road. They don't play on the road here. They shouldn't play out in the road. In fact, these trees are older than the women's club here that was just here. They're older than that club. They've been around forever. It'd be just a terrible shame to look at those trees and that whole street gutted because somebody lives on a corner and wants to have a paved road. It's just, and these people have been living there for 30 plus years paying taxes. And thank you for your consideration. And we support the residents, Chris and the residents there, and for the new house. But like I said, the neighbor's been paying for over 30 years in taxes. Thank you very much.
My name is Betty Crippen. I live on Forest in Royal Oak, and I've lived there 50 years. I just had a wonderful red oak tree planted outside my house. free from the city of Royal Oak. Thank you very much. And it's small. And when they were outside planting it, I ran outside and said, "Oh my gosh, my tree is here." He goes, "Wow, I wish everybody would get that excited about the tree." And I'm like, well, I know one other person who'd be more than excited, and that would be Jim Garano, because he loves trees more than anybody that I've ever met. So please reconsider. Just drive down that Fairgrove, look at those beautiful oaks. You can never, ever replace them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chrissy Karaszewski. I live on 413 Rembrandt, but previously I was next door neighbors to Christian and Amanda Steer on Baldwin. I came last minute here today because we were with them at a basketball game and they were saying this meeting was here and I wanted to show support. So I really did not have anything planned. What I guess as I'm listening to both sides, what I really want to say is for the future neighbors, I could not have asked for better neighbors than the Steers when I lived on Baldwin. And I can see if whichever way it goes, somebody's going to be unhappy. But at the end of the day, I want them to know that they're still neighbors, and I hope they can put it behind them. The Steers are very intentional people, and when they picked this home, it was a big decision. They have a beautiful home on Baldwin, but again, there's not many lots in Royal Oak that can fit this type of house that they want. In order to stay in Royal Oak because they love the city so much. So we made the same decision when we moved to Rembrandt. We moved 4 blocks away because we were growing our family and wanted to stay in this immediate downtown area because of the love that we have. So I know there's history there and we appreciate the history of Royal Oak. I feel like that's always a big contention too of the city of Royal Oak, the new with the old. But finding a way to come together, whichever way it's decided, I just hope that there's no bad blood between the neighbors for this. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak at public comment tonight? Going once? Going twice? All right, we're going to bring the meeting back up to this side of the table. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and expressing your thoughts, especially on the proposal with Fairgrove. It's important that we get public input and see all sides and feel all emotions and hear all the history. It really is helpful, and we're grateful that you have come out and illustrated the situation more than just what we see in a packet of paper. So thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you.
That brings us to item 7, which is the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything off the consent agenda? Commissioner Dubuck.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to pull item E.
Okay, E. Anybody else want to pull anything else off the consent agenda? So the consent agenda now consists of City Commission meeting minutes from November 14th, confirmation of mayoral appointments, claims November 18th, November 29th, 2022, and approval of purchase orders. And I want to make one minor correction to one of my appointments. The date for the Planning Commission appointment for Mr. Ellison would be not ending on the 25th, but in fact the 23rd, because
Correct.
he would be filling in for Paul Curtis, who had to resign to move to dreary New Zealand. That guy, I tell you, he needs to take his pictures off the internet, making everybody jealous. So that's one correction with that as read. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Dubuck. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Perush. Discussion on the consent agenda as presented. All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. This brings us to 7E from the consent agenda. Commissioner Dubuck.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, you really appreciate everyone coming out tonight to share their thoughts on this issue. One, I just want to make clear, I know some of our commenters have left, but what's before us tonight is a petition initiated by citizens exercising the right to ask us to pave that road. It is not a proposal by the city. It is not something we've put forward, but when we convert roads in this way, it has to be started by people in that area. And then our general rule has been that more than 50% of the people representing the frontage have to agree. And right here we have 51%. So it's very, very tight. And I understand folks have strong feelings on both sides. hello neighbors. I live just 2 blocks south of here. So I drive this stretch all the time. And I'm not a fan of the dirt road. I'm a fan of the big, huge trees that are there. So I feel both sides of this argument. So just a couple questions, Ms. Donahue. What's before us tonight is really just direction to prepare a plan that we could then consider. Is that accurate?
So tonight you would be directing me to go to the city assessor and develop the district. So he would say, these are the 4 properties, here's the estimated cost, and we bring that back to you for standard resolution 2. And then after that meeting, that's when we start the public hearings. First is a public hearing of necessity, where residents would say, we think this is a necessity for these reasons, or we don't think it's a necessity. And then finally, there's the public hearing of assessment, and that deals more with the cost and if it's fair, if it's right, and go into those details. So that's really where we, in the past, have made the decision. Are we going to keep moving forward with this or not? There's nothing that would stop you from stopping it tonight if you wished, but in the past, we've generally taken those first few steps.
Great. All right. So this is just the very first step in the process. Certainly not committing us to it in any way, but giving us some actual information to discuss and consider if this is appropriate. Is there a way to design this road, non-conforming with our standards, to save those trees?
So when we looked at this, that was our first thought. Oh my gosh, these trees are beautiful and they are huge. So we developed 2 petitions. One is a 27-foot wide road, which is our standard. That's what we always kind of go for. We also did a 21-foot wide road, which is our minimum standard, which you couldn't park on one side of the street, but we thought that might be a nice balance. Even with that, 2 of these 3 giant trees have to go. So there's really not a great way to do it. You could, I don't necessarily love the idea, but you could pave the south half of the road and leave dirt on the north half. You could decide to dead end it if that was what the neighborhood wanted to do. It's an option, a little bit of a different one, but there's some flexibility here too.
And I wasn't quite understanding the dead end proposal. Does that somehow benefit everyone in a way that preserves these trees?
My understanding of it was, so there's 4 properties, and you basically have like a berm or a curb or something in the middle of the block. So it would be paved on the south end. You can get into if there's driveways there, I think there are, for the 2 southern properties. And then the north end would just remain a dirt road, which has this barrier that you can't drive through the street anymore. But those properties could also access their driveways. That's a little bit different. Normally when we're talking about closing a street, we would do that through the traffic committee, and it would be like its own petition process. So that's not the cleanest way to do it, but it's an option.
Well, it certainly impacts far more than the 4 homes that we're talking about right now if we were to close off that street. I mean, I drive through there all the time, so it would impact me and I assume many other people on the block if we were to close the road. So we'd have a lot more opinions on the matter, I think, if that were the proposal at hand. Right now, as we still have the road millage going, the city is still covering 75% of side lots, is that correct?
Up to the first 150 feet, yes.
Okay. So I understand the timing on this is important for the petitioners as well. I'm certainly willing for this to move forward just to get us the information to actually make a decision on, but curious what the rest of my colleagues think here. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add, I see 51% here, which I think, like City Engineer Donahue stated, there's a lot of steps in this, and 51% is telling me, the way at least we've done this over the years, is that it's worth discussing. That if it's 20%, let's not waste the time, the effort. Majority of people don't want it. Let's not put the city resources into exploring options and doing whatever. Typically, it's in the high 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, I think we've even seen in the 80s at one point. Or maybe I was dreaming that. But to me, if we have that rule of 51%, enough people, a majority, at least is the way we calculate it, suggests that we should look at some different options to put in front of this commission and make a decision whether or not, what option we like or whether or not we move forward with it. I think that sounds fair and reasonable given that it's a 51%. If it was 49%, 48, then we say no, go get your 51 or higher, and we'll put the time and effort into it. I have issues with the trees, of course. I got lots of ideas, probably not as many as Commissioner Colo, but he's not here tonight, so we'll save you, City Engineer Donahue, on some of those crazy ones. But there's a few ideas I have as well that I can put your way, maybe in a separate correspondence so we don't spend all night talking about it. Commissioner Macy?
I think I agree with your position on this, Mayor. It seems like at this point, this stage is just the going forward stage, as Commissioner Dubak pointed out. But I hope that Ms. Donahue is getting the sense from us that we're interested in creative solutions to this, because it seems like the neighbors they're not in major opposition to each other. They both want each other to be happy. Nobody wants the trees to go down, and people understand that these neighbors moving in want this to be a place for their children to play. So I think, it sounds like there's two options you normally look at, the 27 foot and the 21 feet, and some other options were presented today. And, unlike the mayor, I don't have any better ideas. Sometimes I like to play engineer, but I don't have them today. But I know that you will have some, and we've put you to the test before with some creative problems that you've come back with solutions for. So I guess the question that I have for you is that something we can do? Is if we push forward at this point and say, yes, we want to go forward, would you bring us back at the next stage just the option that's here in this packet, which is a 27-foot road, or would you bring us back other options as well?
Well, this petition that they circulated and got signed was for a 27-foot wide road. We did not receive a 21-foot wide. We didn't receive anything else. So sure, I can come up with other ideas, but does it follow the process? Do we need to get a new petition then? And I might ask the city attorney. I'm not sure what we do there, if we can just change things on the fly, or if that negates what the petition signatures were for.
The people who signed it were petitioning a 27-foot wide, not a 21-foot wide. So to be on the cautious and safe side, a new petition would have to be submitted, or an amendment to this.
We could go to when we get to that point of the public hearing, we would move forward. Okay, this is what 27 foot looks like, but in context of alternatives, here are some alternatives to see whether or not we should move forward with the 27 foot or kick it back and say, we're going to deny the 27 foot because we believe that there's a better way of going about this, which I feel bad for the city engineer. She's looking at me, she's like, oh, double work. But the only other alternative is to say no and then start over, and then they'd have to do a petition for each option. But if we keep it with the 27 foot, but show it in terms of, a little bit of, scratch math and drawing for alternatives, then at least we can make the decision on the 27 foot with the context of alternatives, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, guys, I want to.
And one more question for you. Aren't you literally an engineer? You said you play engineer.
I'm a computer engineer. It's not the same. So I guess I want to follow up on what you were just saying. So at first it sounded like, no, we can't come up with the other options, but now it's sounding like maybe we can. I just feel like we had all these people come out and say their piece tonight, and we're basically saying, great, come back again and see us in 2 months and do the same thing again. It feels like a waste of their time and ours if maybe I'm wrong, but my read of this table is getting rid of those 5 trees is going to be really tough. And so we're basically saying, go forth with this thing that we're probably going to say no to, and without allowing her to do alternatives, or we can.
The city engineer can prepare an alternative in comparison to the 27-foot wide, if that would help this commission at the next step in the process to determine whether or not 27-foot wide road is feasible, and if not, then if it's a 21-foot, it could deny this petition and ask the petitioners to come back with a 27-foot or 21-foot wide petition, signed petition. That would help you, I think, make that decision as to which one would be a better option that would be more acceptable to the neighborhood and save the trees.
Commissioner Prush, and then Commissioner Dubak.
I just want to be sure that by structuring the process this way, they don't somehow time themselves out of being able to get the cost advantage of being under the road program. I mean, if they have to go back and get another petition, does that mean they are outside of the window of opportunity that they have now for the cost calculation based on the millage language?
I believe the last time we reviewed that, we set it as June 30th of 2023.
Oh, okay.
So we have enough time, with the idea being that we get it, then we can still build it in 2024 under the millage. So that's why we set that expiration date. So
Okay.
I think there's definitely enough time to create new petitions and circulate if that's
Yeah,
the way the neighborhood wants to go.
That's 6 or 7 months. Okay, great, thanks.
Commissioner DeButt.
So I remember us considering another road proposal a few years back where it was about tree protection, and then it was also a road that dead-ended and having proper turnaround space for emergency vehicles.
North Lafayette.
And we kicked that one around and moved it around quite a bit throughout the design process, all the while communicating with the residents that we knew it was veering from the original petition. My understanding, and the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, this process that we follow is our process, but not ordinance. Am I wrong about that?
It's a charter process.
But as far we could, my understanding is, couldn't we choose to pave a road on the commission's authority without even the petition process?
Yes, you have that authority on your own. Yes, you would, yes.
So I'm saying there's nothing legally obligating us to pave the road based on the petition proposal.
And normally it's done by petition because it's the citizens who are asking you for that road, and that's the more, that is the preferred mechanism that this commission long ago decided to do, rather than simply going out and doing it over citizen objections.
Absolutely, and that's my preference as well. And I'm saying, I think where we have that flexibility here, and I think we have two groups of neighbors who do want to find a resolution, and I feel both. I want to get it paved. I don't want to tear down these 5 big, beautiful trees. So if we can move forward with exploring several options, even those that are perhaps fall outside of our standards, but maybe get a little bit for everybody here, I think that would be ideal.
Yeah, and the options are to leave it as it is, or up to 27 foot wide, and then all the different options in between that we can think of. That similar, I like the example you use of North Lafayette. That was a little bit of back and forth, tug of war, and we came, I think, to a very good solution on that one, and got resolved to it. Commissioner Macy.
So just a question to satisfy my curiosity, Ms. Donahue, if we pave just the south end, would we lose any trees?
I think there was one on these
along
the Steers property.
Yeah, we have a black walnut, and then the neighbors on the other side, that would be on the east side, southeast side, had 2 newer trees. I would say they were probably 5 years old.
But it's not these 100-year-old trees?
Correct,
Yeah.
on our side.
Okay. I'm looking on Google Maps, that's why I see 2.
Yeah. And during public comment, if you see us looking at our screens, we're usually pulling up the maps right away to put a visual to what people are saying.
With pictures.
Yeah. Commissioner Douglas.
Ms. Donahue, so 27 feet allows for 2 lanes of traffic and parking on both. What?
So generally, it's parking both sides of the street. If it's fully parked, yeah, it's 1 lane, but it's on most of our streets, you just kind of jockey with other vehicles and drive through. So it's 1 solid, clear lane, often 2, unless there's a lot of parking. 21 foot wide, it's a similar idea, except you cannot park on the other side because you need to maintain at least 10 feet of drivable space. Going narrower than 21 feet, I would not advise for that reason, unless we didn't want to allow any parking. But even then, you still can't drive next to a vehicle, so you'd almost have to go to a one-way street. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. I should just come up with some ideas and then present them, but.
Sorry, didn't have my mic on. We do that to you all the time, and you tap dance your way through it very adeptly. Thank you for that. But I'm just wondering, just looking at, again, I can see this on the, thank you, Google Street View. What if we just could we keep those trees and have 2 through lanes of parking or of driving, and maybe let people park between the trees, even?
Possibly. Until I lay it out in CAD, I'm not totally sure how it's going to work out. The problem is the roots too. It's not just the tree. It's how far out those roots go, and we don't want to kill them by cutting into them too close.
Right. Joe, this seems solvable.
Yeah.
Probably not by us.
Yeah, but
Right. Not
By
by us
Holly.
right now.
I mean, my extensive
about
experience
some
in
more.
finance would really equip me to solve this issue.
Like
No
computer
offense, Ms.
engineering
Donahue.
degree.
None taken. Go
Just
for it.
Yes.
I'd like to move approval of Resolution 1.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Perush. Discussion? I'll just add to all parties involved, this is just, a step, 51%. We want to hear it out. We think if people come, if we set this process up and we said go out and get petitions, and if the majority of the people, or at least the way we calculate it must, come back, we'll at least take a look at it. And I think that's fair. I think saying no and not going to the next step would be not in the spirit or in the technicality of the process that was established to look at these things. So there's a lot of steps forward. To throw it out there, I have a serious concern about the trees, but I'm completely open to alternatives that, the four folks there agree upon, plus, consideration of if you pave it, drivers are going to go down it now, and the traffic's going to increase. And those drivers matter too, because we all pay taxes and road taxes, and Commissioner DeBuck wants to drive it, or if I'm visiting Commissioner DeBuck and I want to drive down Thayer Grove, I'm entitled to drive down there too, and it's got to be safe and navigable. So, all right. With that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. Next steps. City engineer. I almost called you chief engineer, trying to get out of my work. I guess you are the chief engineer anyways, too.
Next up, I'll bring you State Resolution 2 at December 12th meeting. That's another consent item. Generally, we usually don't discuss it unless there's something unusual going on. So I would prefer to bring different options to our January meeting where we actually have the public hearing. Perhaps that's something I could publish or send out to the residents ahead of time so they have some talking points at least that they could bring to the public hearing, and then we can maybe take it from there. If that sounds agreeable.
Good to the residents? Yeah, sure. Okay. Good. All right, thank you. All right. This brings us to our second to last item tonight, which is approval of responsible contractors ordinance amendments, second reading and approval of administrative rules.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So tonight we have the second reading for the administrative rules changes. To kind of recap, we tweaked that workplace safety and looked a little bit broader instead of the OSHA requirement. We updated the language to include Commissioner Colo's amendment last time. So if you recall, he wanted to keep that local workforce element. So we actually wrote in the counties that are a part of SEMCOG is how we determined what counties went into southeastern Michigan. And then we kept that additional MDOT requirement that we talked about last time as well. So that's the first resolution. If you guys approve it without changes, then we can look at the administrative rules, which just mimics those changes. But if you make additional changes to the ordinance tonight, then we don't need to worry about the second resolution tonight. So that's what I have for you.
Questions from Ms. Barton? No questions? Comments? Inner thoughts? Commissioner Douglas.
Well, and they give us everything we asked for last time. What more is there to say? I'll move approval of the resolution.
All right, motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Perush. Discussion? Don't think I'm going to get it out of you if I couldn't get it out of the first time. All right. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Barkman. Oh,
This is the second part too.
second part.
So the administrative rules, it just changes those pieces that we just changed in the ordinance to reflect that as a part of the administrative rules. Nothing else changed.
All right. I think we're good on all of it. Commissioner Macy?
I'll move approval.
Move approval by Commissioner Macy. Second. Second by Commissioner DeBuck. Dare I ask discussion?
Well, let me just say, no, never mind.
All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. Easy peasy. Thank you, Ms. Parkman. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us to our last agenda item, which is consideration of the compensation contract for the city clerk. And I believe Commissioner Prush.
I move that we amend the city clerk's contract to reflect the adjustments to salary and compensation as discussed in closed session this evening.
A motion by Commissioner Prush. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. That brings us to the end of our meeting tonight, everyone. Short and sweet. If there's not anything for the betterment of our fine community, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by Commissioner Prush. A second by Commissioner Macy. Jumping high on that one. All right, discussion on this important motion. All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. We're adjourned.